Hello and welcome to episode 26 of The Australian Runner, a weekly show about running and everything running related. I'm Ben and with me is Chris.
Hi everyone.
Today's episode is about base training and how it can improve your running. Let's get started. So Chris, let's just start off by explaining exactly what base training is.
Base training is like the foundations of a training program, which you undertake at the start of a training block to build that foundation for where you want to go and end up to achieve your goal.
Yeah, so just like you've got base camp when you want to get to the bottom to start climbing the mountain, you've got base training as a good place to build off from when you want to get faster and faster over the course of the season.
Yeah, exactly. This serves as your starting point. So you've done zero running, or you've had some time off over the off season. Maybe even you've gone on a holiday or something, and you're like, all right, I want to get my life back in shape. I'm aiming for this race. It's in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 2 months' time. But first, what we have to do is get some base training under our belt.
Base training basically aims to build up your aerobic capacity, because after all, running's an aerobic sport, so it makes a whole lot of sense to focus primarily to get your base up to a really good aerobic level.
Yeah, and the main thing that base training stresses is running lots, upping the mileage, running consistent amounts, not even hard, just getting the mileage in, just getting the work in and just running the distance.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key part of this base training, isn't it? When you go for a run, it doesn't have to be a really hard run. You can run it a bit slower as long as you keep up the consistency of running, keep up the distance, and it's really all about how much time you spend running.
Yeah, so the base training is all about the quantity, the volume of work and running we're doing, and then the quality comes second in the pre-competition phase and into the actual sessions, which will come later on. Because in the base phase, there's rarely any sessions, or very few. Maybe one tempo a week or a fartlek a week, something like that. Otherwise, it is literally running and strides, which we'll get onto.
Yeah, as you said, the quality comes with time and it will come with this solid, consistent running week after week.
Yeah, and so with the base foundation, we've talked about getting the mileage and the aerobic beast up and purring. But you've also you can't let your body forget how to run quickly. So strides, short hill sprints are a must. We're not talking these are sessions. These are maybe at the end of a run, do 5, 4, 100-metre sprints, 80-metre sprints as fast as you can, just after you run. And they're just at maximum effort, or at least 95% speed.
Yeah, like you said, just so your body doesn't forget how to run quickly. So when you really get into your proper hard sessions, your body doesn't go, whoa, we've only been running relatively slowly for the past 4 weeks. What's this speed stuff?
Yeah, you don't want to start these sessions where you're doing kilometre reps, 500-metre reps, 800-metre reps, mile reps, and that feels really fast. Doing these strides means that they still feel like they're at a fairly comfortable pace, and your runs feel like they're at an easy pace. But also, we need to remember to do the gym work if you're into that. Because in base training, this is where you do your heavy lifting, your tough lifting, and you feel that DOMS and you get the DOM soreness and you get the fatigue happening and you just learn to push through and grind through it.
Okay, so now we've sort of got an idea of what a base phase sort of looks like. We can talk about some more specific things that you can do during this base phase. The most obvious one is just a long run, so it's real just volume, getting the legs ticking over. You want it to be long, but you're not going to start off your first week going for a 20k run if you've just had the last month and a half off of holiday or whatever reason, depending on what suits you, what sort of runner you are, and probably how far into the base phase you are as well.
Yeah, definitely your long run should be 60 to 90 minutes, somewhere in that. Start at the 60 minutes maybe early on in training, and then push towards 90 by the end of your base phase. As well as the long run, It's good to do tempo work at a faster pace, but you're not absolutely puffing the house down. So a tempo run would be you run for 20 minutes, but you're doing it at a pace that you could run 60 minutes at, flat out. So it's quite fast, but it definitely doesn't feel easy, but it's not like you get to the end, you're on all fours, and you're absolutely wrecked like you couldn't walk another step. You should cross the line, feel a bit puffy and puffed out, but not dead. And you should be able to easily do your cool down or whatever afterwards.
There's also sprint work. We touched on this a little bit before, making sure that you're doing really fast, just short, sharp runs. So you can incorporate this using like hill sprints. They're really good. So you can do it maybe 8 to 10 seconds, only that long up a hill. And you can do this 4 to 6 times. So it's just really getting the power through the legs, making sure you feel like you're running fast, but really doing 8 to 10 second sprints however many times. Really, it's not there to really help you out and get the speed in. It's really just to make sure that you remember what running really fast feels like.
It keeps your technique also in form when running at those really fast speeds. Overall, there's nothing pretty about the base phase. It's just, most of the time it's relatively boring, running at a monotonous pace and livening it up with some sprint work. And it really is just to get through the grind and just get through that soreness phase, and so you can do the quality, good-looking session type works and races later on.
So really the last question is, how long should the base phase last for? Really, there's no set length. What's been developed over time is to find out that if you're aiming for a particular event, you don't really need more than 4 to 6 weeks of hard anaerobic work to make yourself ready for that. So 4 to 6 weeks out of a big event is when you can start shifting from the base phase into the real hard anaerobic phase. Because after that sort of 6 week period, you sort of get diminishing returns. So you're putting in more and more work and you're not getting as much out of it. So generally speaking, you do the base phase over the off season when you're not competing, or sort of the lead up into the start of the season.
Yeah, exactly right. Just after you've had time back, this is the first thing you should do. If you've had time off, don't jump into serious, tough, hard sessions. You'll be absolutely wrecked. They probably won't be as good as what you're used to, and you might lose some motivation that way. If you build it up slowly by you've gone from no running to this base phase, which is easy running and hard sprints, then you move into your sessions type phase where you do 2 sessions a week or 3 sessions a week with the long run and easy runs around it. And then you move into your 1 or 2 week taper and then you race. And of course, that changes for everyone how long you spend in each of those zones. Marathon runners can spend a huge amount of time in just the base phase because running miles is just so important to their craft. 5k, 10k runners don't need to run as far, but they'll have to do more faster sessions and stuff because you still need a bit of pace to run a good 5k. I mean, a lot of people aim to run at 4 to 5 minute k pace, whereas marathon runners are running 5 to 6 minute k pace for the average punter. So you got to stress the right things for what you want to achieve. But base training is good for all events.
On that note, it's a good place to end the first half of the show. So we hope everyone found that useful, learning about the base phase and how you can incorporate it into your running. And so now I'll pass it over to Chris for the week's running and athletics news.
Thanks for that. A few athletics events were across the globe over the weekend. And our first stop is to Jamaica, where Usain Bolt hosted a meet, which was to be his last race on home soil before he retires in August at the World Championships. He ended up running in a race and ran 10.03, and quite pedestrian pace for him, but he was in a special heat, so he won it easily. Also at that meet, Australian Patrick Tiernan was second in the men's 3,000 metres behind the Olympic great Mo Farah. Tiernan recorded a time of 7:41.20, moving him up to 5th on the Australian all-time list, so he's gone from strength to strength this season. Additionally, Sally Pearson ran 12:83 over the hurdles after completing a solid block of training with athletes such as Wade van Niekerk, who is the 400-metre Olympic champion and world record holder. Up the coast now to America, and at the Portland Track Classic, Georgia Griffith ran a World Champs qualifier in the 800 metres. She ran 2 minutes flat, .90. This is the fastest time run by an Australian woman in 6 years. Great result from her. She will have definitely qualified. Lyndon Hall ran a season's best with a time of 4:04.37, her fastest time in about a year. And Isaac Hockey ran well in his 1500 metre heat on the comeback trail. Morgan McDonald ran 13:23.28 in a college 5,000 metre race. This is just under a second off the World Champs qualifying standard. Luke Matthews put another qualifier on the board in Europe, running slightly faster than last week in a PB time of 3:35.57. And that's your news for this week.
Thanks for that, Chris. Luke Matthews has been having an absolute fantastic couple of weeks, hasn't he?
2 PBs back to back, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Definitely stepped up a level since Rio last year.
Okay, and that's it for the show this week. Thank you everyone for listening. You can find us on iTunes and YouTube as The Australian Runner. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram as The Australian Runner there, or head to www.theaustralianrunner.com. See you next week.
See you then.